The spirit of innovation has been alive in Germany for centuries. From engineering to medicine to the arts, Germany has always been a source for new ideas that change the world.
The center of scientific thought, of music, of mass communication.
One of the phrases we use in Germany to describe ourselves is Land der Dichter und Denker, which translates to land of the poets and thinkers.
Germany has made tremendous contributions in so much of our science and technology, our transportation and our understanding even of basic physics.
Even many of our most cherished traditions and stories have their roots in Germany.
Fairy tales, stories that we know very well. Woods and witches and all this kind of magical world.
It's got so many gorgeous towns and cities and castles and rivers and forests.
But for all its fairy tale beauty and great achievements, Germany still reckons with the legacy of its past.
That is always going to be part of German history. That's just how it is.
There was a dark period we should always remember, but we should also place it in context. What Germany gave us before and after that particular period has been immeasurably beneficial for all mankind.
And today, to celebrate Germany's long history of innovation, we're going to conduct a thought experiment. We're going to strip away key German innovations from our world.
If German history was erased, the world would come to a standstill. We would have chaos.
This is History Erased, the world without Germany. Germany, a country of 82 million people that straddles the east and west of Europe. For more than 2,000 years, through periods of peace, war, and rebirth, German minds have produced visionary new ideas and world-changing inventions. But today, as we embark on our thought experiment, some of Germany's greatest innovations will stop working. The whole world will feel the impact, including one young couple getting ready for their fairy tale wedding. Getting to the church on time is easy, and it's all thanks to Germany's revolutionary achievements in transportation.
I think a lot of people take transportation for granted nowadays, but the car in essence is where it all started.
The car is instrumental to our way of life.
And at the heart of the car is the engine.
The internal combustion engine was one of the greatest innovations in civilization.
In 1876, a German engineer named Nikolaus Otto unveiled the Otto engine. It was the first commercial engine to compress and burn fuel inside a cylinder and move pistons, an ingenious invention that could generate an unprecedented amount of mechanical power. Soon after this breakthrough, German innovators like Gottlieb Daimler and Wilhelm Maybach began to see the engine's potential. But one of the greatest visionaries of all was Carl Benz.
Carl Benz had heard about engine development, and he was the first one to use it to actually build a moving vehicle.
Before Carl Benz designed the first car, the only way to get around was on a carriage with a horse. Humans were reliant on animal power for transportation.
Benz's new machine soon got a popular nickname, the horseless carriage.
Suddenly, a wagon that could move without muscle power. This was a revolutionary change.
Now you had the ability to travel long distances without having to stop for breaks or waiting for the horses to eat.
The world noticed this extraordinary new invention, but few took it seriously.
Even in Germany, people were quite skeptical.
It was Carl Benz's wife Bertha who had a bold idea to prove the automobile could travel far and fast, and that it was the vehicle of the future. In 1888, without telling her husband, she took one of his cars on the first long-distance drive in history.
A lot of people never seen something like that before. It must have been totally absurd. It's like a horse, but there's no horse.
Bertha Benz drove the car some 90 kilometers across Germany to visit her mother.
At the time, it was, a mind-blowing idea that you could travel 40, 50 kilometers in an hour.
Frau Benz herself proved to be a brilliant engineer.
So as Bertha Benz was going along, she encountered a huge problem with slowing down on hills.
The solution she found was literally underfoot.
So she stopped at a cobbler's shop and she actually got them to attach leather to the brakes. Basically, she invented the brake pad.
Bertha didn't drive the car on that long distance just for fun. She wanted to prove that the car was a viable option for people. It was a big publicity stunt, and it definitely worked.
German engineers never stopped improving vehicle and engine design. In the early 1890s, inspired by Nikolaus Otto's pioneering work, Rudolf Diesel introduced the diesel engine, which produced higher torque at lower speeds, ideal for hauling heavy loads. Today, diesel engines power all kinds of large vehicles, from freight trains to trucks.
The diesel engine is nowadays used in a huge variety of different vehicles. In the farming industry, for example, in the military, on ships.
Every kind of conceivable vehicle we use these days is based on those pioneering engines that came out of Germany.
Whether it's for family, public safety, or doing our jobs, our daily lives rely on the automobile.
Just making sure you're running on time.
Yes, everything's right on schedule.
Okay, good.
The automobile facilitates trade, it facilitates the delivery of goods. It allowed us to transport food great distances, to transport building blocks of cities great distances. It allowed the economy to grow faster.
Above all, the German invention of the engine-powered automobile gave people around the world a brand new freedom of movement.
It's the freedom to travel wherever, whenever you like.
The independence that comes from having your own set of wheels. The automobile was the great liberator.
Now, over 130 years since Karl and Bertha Benz brought us the car, over 70 million passenger vehicles are produced each year.
The car becomes something that really changes the world because it means we design our lives and our cities in different ways.
And to keep all those vehicles moving, the world depends on a vast network of roads, highways, and bridges. Another field of transportation where German engineering opened up new possibilities. In the 1830s, Wilhelm Albert had the idea to take several strands of metal wire and twist them into a helix. The result was a revolutionary new invention.
Wire rope, which is essentially rope made out of metal fibers, and we use it in suspension bridges. They're everywhere.
Wire rope is also what makes it possible for elevators to be lifted hundreds of feet into the air, smoothly and safely. Thin strands of wire rope can also be found in the gear and brake systems of yet another German contribution to transportation, the bicycle.
The wheel was invented thousands of years ago. Thousands of years after that, it occurred to somebody to put wheels in series, one behind the other, and lo and behold, the bicycle was born.
The father of the bicycle was a brilliant inventor named Karl Drais. In 1815, he came up with the very first two-wheeled, steerable, human-propelled vehicle.
You actually had to run on it with your feet on the ground, kind of like the cars in the Flintstones.
This game changer opened up a new era of personal transport. Over the years, the design was improved. And today, over 2 billion bikes are in use all over the world for transportation, for competition, or just having fun.
It is the single most popular travel conveyance in the history of the human race.
German achievements in transportation have changed the world. But now, we're going to follow through on our thought experiment. In the blink of an eye, Every one of these German breakthroughs in transportation are lost. Bikes, cars, trucks, and trains all cease to function.
Without the main modes of transportation, the world would look completely different.
We would have a massive breakdown of our society.
Of course, we would have the worst gridlock you'd ever seen. Every highway becomes a parking lot.
Appointments are missed. Workers can't work. Even emergencies go unheeded.
The ability for first responders to get people to a hospital, that wouldn't happen. And so a lot of people would die.
As all vehicles and even wire rope are rendered useless, the whole world grinds to a halt. But when we shake the foundations of modern media, we lose much more than the latest headlines. Germany's vital contributions to transportation have been erased, and the world has come to a dead stop.
Just die.
Even our groom has no choice but to try and get to his wedding on foot. As our experiment continues, we'll examine the impact of key German innovations in mass communication. Today, especially in moments of crisis, we rely on the media to provide us with up-to-the-minute information.
This is something really crucial, how we communicate with each other on a mass scale, how we get access to information. And that accessibility is incredibly empowering for every member of society.
Whether it be on the front page or online, information is now widely available. But it wasn't always this way. In 1439, a German entrepreneur named Johannes Gutenberg created one of the most consequential inventions of all time, the printing press.
If Germany had given us nothing else except the printing press, we would still have to thank them for making our modern world.
Gutenberg's genius was to combine the existing technology of movable type with a new kind of ink press. It was designed to generate printed material quicker and cheaper than ever before.
What a brilliant idea. With 100 little pieces of lead type, you can make every thought any human being has ever had.
Among the first publications to roll off the new press was the Gutenberg Bible. This proved to the world once and for all that a book could be mass-produced. Before the printing press, all communication, books, letters, notices, were either handwritten, stamped, or carved.
Can you imagine if the only way you got a book was if somebody laboriously hand wrote it out? Making a single copy of a book required hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Written information was expensive to produce and had often been controlled by the rich and powerful. This all changed with the printing press. For the first time, a single book could be made in a matter of hours instead of weeks.
Suddenly, it became possible to produce an endless number of books economically.
And that explosion of accessibility is incredibly empowering for every member of society.
It brings knowledge to the people. It makes democracy possible.
The printing press laid the foundations for scientific revolution, for mass communication, for education.
Suddenly, it opens up a world of knowledge. Literacy becomes widespread.
Thanks to the printing press, Germany helped lead the dissemination of new ideas and philosophies.
No country on earth has ever had as many important philosophers as Germany produced.
An amazing number of incredible philosophers. You have Marx, Hegel, Kant, Nietzsche, you just name it.
But long before Marx, Kant, and Hegel, Gutenberg's press was essential to one of Germany's most influential thinkers. In the early 1500s, Martin Luther dared to challenge the long-established authority of the Catholic Church. and he wanted his message to reach the widest audience possible.
Martin Luther was a Catholic monk who changed the world by spearheading the Protestant Reformation.
Luther believed that many of the rituals and practices of the Catholic Church needed radical change. On October 31st, 1517, he presented a bold plan for reform in what is now known as the 95 Theses.
The legend goes that Luther posts the 95 Theses on the church door in Wittenberg, and it's from there that he becomes Martin Luther, the reformer.
Luther's controversial document was soon printed, and copies were shared as widely as possible.
And this started the Protestant Reformation, which split the church into two halves and really created a religious crisis all throughout Europe.
The Protestant Reformation redefined Christianity and had a massive impact on global politics and world history. Beyond philosophy, politics, and religion, printing also led to a revolution in storytelling. In the early 1800s, Jakob and Wilhelm Grimm compiled and published over 200 European folk tales. The fantastical tales became and remain popular around the world.
It's almost impossible to imagine childhood today without the fairy tales of the Brothers Grimm.
Grimm's fairy tales were comprised of dozens of iconic titles, like Hansel and Gretel, Little Red Riding Hood, Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty.
The stories the Grimm brothers collected and published influenced so many writers, poems, filmmakers afterwards. Directly you have Disney, who was very much inspired by the stories and brought many of them on film.
Even the inspiration for the Disney castle was drawn from Germany. Neuschwanstein Castle in the Bavarian Alps was what Walt Disney used when he was developing this kind of magical version of Disney. All of these things that are so central to so many aspects of our lives, the very hearts of their stories come from Germany.
From books to newspapers, all the way to the internet, modern media flows directly from Germany. But today, in our story, if we remove the impact of the printing press, how would our lives be affected?
All books taken away, all printed media taken away. And probably, even though a lot of inventions followed afterwards, all media taken away.
What's happening?
We lose the ability to communicate ideas on a mass scale. We undermine our democracy. We stop being able to tell each other about important events.
If you took away the German contribution of mass communication, a tradition of philosophical inquiry and debate from modern civilization, we would grind to a halt. Ignorance would be rampant.
Without some of Germany's important innovations, people, goods, and information have all come to a standstill, sending shockwaves around the globe. And it will only get worse when we remove German contributions to medicine. To understand the critical role Germany has played in the world, we've erased some key innovations. The loss of transportation and mass media has tipped the world into crisis. Even our wedding is falling apart. The groom can't hope to make the church on time, and his bride has no way to find out what's going on. Now, when we target Germany's contributions to medicine, the health of the whole world is at stake.
So much of our modern medical understanding can be attributed to work of German scientists throughout the centuries.
In the 1850s, pioneering scientists like Rudolf Virchow developed the new field of cell theory, giving the world a whole new perspective on human health.
The Germans discovered the fact that we are made of cells, individual components. That's the foundational truth of modern biology and modern medicine.
Whether it be respiration, like where we get our energy from, nutrition, but also when we get infected by diseases, when we get cancer, all of these things are understood at the cellular level.
Cell theory means that we can study the disease. And only if you can study a disease, we can really try to cure it.
Germany also gave us the ability to identify and understand what makes us sick in the first place.
The German scientist Robert Koch was crucial in understanding germs and our relationship to them in understanding about modern disease.
Robert Koch was able to identify things like cholera, like TB.
By defining the way these life-threatening bacteria can spread, Koch helped us understand the importance of clean water and the link between health and hygiene.
If you don't know what bacteria is, and you don't know that different diseases are caused by different bacteria, you can't have modern medicine as you know it. You might as well be in an age of witchcraft. Well, an evil witch cast a spell on me and that's why I got sick. Only once we have these advances can we enter the modern world.
All these advances in understanding cells, germs, and bacteria would have been impossible if not for another groundbreaking German innovator. Carl Zeiss had an idea to drastically improve one of medicine's most important tools, the microscope. Through painstaking experimentation with high-quality compound lenses, Zeiss's microscope could magnify objects up to 600 times.
And that's crucial for scientists because they need to look at small bacteria and cells and then in turn to create their own scientific innovations.
To see human blood cells, to see bacteria, to see cells dividing. Without microscopes, we would never know that a sperm is what fertilizes an egg. The basic tenets of our life became revealed to us because of the work of Carl Zeiss.
Zeiss's work with high-precision optics went far beyond the microscope.
Carl Zeiss's contributions can still be felt today pretty much everywhere you look.
Zeiss lenses have been used to shoot countless award-winning films. NASA uses Zeiss lenses to capture images of our universe.
Telescope lenses opened up the night sky to us, the truth of our place in the universe.
In today's world, we use optical glass for so many things, especially eyeglasses.
More than half of the adult population depends on eyeglasses or contact lenses to enable them to see the world around them.
German ingenuity has not only allowed us to see better, it's allowed us to see deeper. In 1895, physicist Wilhelm Röntgen was experimenting with cathode rays when he accidentally discovered that the rays could pass through human flesh to reveal what lies beneath. Röntgen immediately saw the medical potential for his new invention. He called it the X-ray.
It becomes an incredibly powerful tool that is extremely important for medicine, being able to image the structure of our bodies on the inside.
Tuberculosis, one of the diseases Robert Koch identified through painstaking examination of cells, could now be diagnosed almost immediately with an X-ray image.
There, a shadow, like a little cloud in the sky. That means trouble beginning in the lung.
Broken bones, tumors, even lodged bullets could now be seen in detail without invasive surgery.
My own grandfather was shot through the face in World War I, and we're lucky enough to actually have his 1918 X-ray showing his broken jaw. That was so important for even me being here.
Not only is Germany responsible for the way we see the unseen, it has also helped us deal with pain.
Are you okay? What's wrong?
No, I'm not feeling too well.
Come lie down.
Aspirin is the most commonly used pain reliever on the planet. We also discovered in the last few decades that aspirin has beneficial effects on the cardiovascular system.
Many people think of aspirin for the headache, but if we lost aspirin, many people would die because it's preventing them from getting heart attacks.
As we take our thought experiment one step further, we'll strip away all these extraordinary medical breakthroughs.
Cell theory, bacteria, X-ray, aspirin. Imagine the world just didn't have all of that. You know, it would be a very devastating place.
It would be so scary and terrifying today if people were just getting sick all the time and we had no idea why they were sick.
Instead of having life expectancies closer to 80, it might be closer to something like 40.
Help!
We don't know how to defend ourselves against infection.
People would be dying left, right, and center.
Our world falls apart.
And when we erase Germany's crucial achievements in physics and chemistry, the world will be plunged even deeper into crisis. Without Germany's contributions to transportation, mass media, and medicine, many lives around the world are in peril. Even the mother of the bride is not immune to the sudden spread of deadly bacteria. From physics to engineering to chemistry, German scientists have changed our world. But there's one who stands above them all.
Every kid growing up knows who Albert Einstein is. They might not be able to articulate exactly what his science was, but they know him as kind of this wacky-looking guy with long hair.
His name is synonymous with genius.
Einstein was born into a Jewish family in Germany in 1879. By his mid-20s, he was already renowned for his groundbreaking work in physics.
Albert Einstein's work kicks off so much of our understanding about the universe and the modern world. It helps us understand how atoms work, how stars and planets work, how gravity works, how the speed of light works.
But he's probably best known for the world's most famous equation.
E equals mc squared is energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. The secret that there is so much energy locked up in even single atoms. A massive breakthrough in understanding how our universe is structured.
Einstein's genius gives us more than a big picture understanding of our universe.
I think nearly all the technology we have nowadays, in one way or another, relates to the findings of Albert Einstein. He laid the groundwork for understanding the principles that later led inventors around the world to make amazing products.
Things like how digital cameras work, computers, and all the electronic devices we take for granted today.
Telecommunications, GPS, Wi-Fi, sat-nav in your car.
Even the vast network of fiber optic and satellite communications our smartphones rely on.
Hello, John?
Hey, I don't know what's going on.
It all comes from Einstein's work in defining the way light, energy, and matter are understood. But perhaps the biggest and most controversial scientific breakthrough linked to Einstein is nuclear energy.
E equals mc squared, it leads to splitting the atom, nuclear energy, nuclear bombs, and all the rest.
Nuclear energy is a means of converting the mass in nuclei to available energy. It's essentially harnessing the power of the sun. That's how the sun works. And we're learning better and better how to do that here on Earth.
Though first harnessed for its fearsome destructive power, nuclear energy now generates about 11% of the world's electricity.
Nuclear power is, in fact, for many countries, the best, most efficient, most cost-effective way to produce electricity. And as long as we take all the appropriate precautions, quite conceivably the safest and most environmentally friendly way as well.
Einstein's work would have been impossible without another brilliant German scientist.
One of the lesser-known names in the history of mathematics was Emmy Noether. She actually was instrumental in helping Albert Einstein figure out some of his theories.
Emmy Noether's contributions were crucial. She came up with a number of powerful mathematical theorems. It was absolutely essential to Einstein's theory of relativity, and it has now become a foundation for a huge amount of what we think of as modern physics.
And in the Old Boys Club of Math and Science, Noether broke gender barriers and blazed a trail for other female mathematicians to come. Germany's scientific minds have explained our universe and harnessed the atom. but they have also helped feed the world. At the turn of the 20th century, Fritz Haber discovered a way to isolate one of the key chemical elements that help plants grow.
Fritz Haber is probably one of the most important scientists who has ever lived. His role was to develop a process to fix nitrogen and make nitrogen fertilizer. This is one of the most important ingredients for modern farming. It's why we can feed 7 billion humans today. Millions of people are alive today because of the work of Fritz Haber.
Barley and hops are two of the thousands of crops that depend on nitrogen fertilizer to grow. They also happen to be the main ingredients in one of the world's favorite beverages.
We're touching on a very sensitive subject here of German history, namely beer.
Germans are pretty proud about the German beer.
Although beer has been around for a long time, it hasn't always been the same drink we know today.
Beer brewing has existed for literally thousands of years. But frankly, they'd just put any old garbage into it, whatever fruit or whatever was available to sweeten it up and get the fermentation process going. They called it beer.
But that all changed in 1516. The state of Bavaria enacted a law dictating the ingredients of beer, ensuring the highest quality.
The German beer purity law is something that originated in the early 16th century by the Duke of Bavaria, who said that there's only 3 ingredients that ultimately should be in beer: hops, barley, and water.
Beer as we know it today was legally defined by the Germans.
Today, beer is wildly popular around the world. Nearly 4 billion kegs are consumed each year. That's enough to fill this German beer stein 186 billion times.
Beer is the people's drink.
Beer is a piece of that larger story about food and science and culture. So much of the culture gets built around beer.
It is the 3rd most drank beverage around the world. People travel thousands of miles just to be part of festivals for beer. Oktoberfest in Munich has sometimes above 6 million visitors in just 2 or 3 weeks.
German science has given the world a new understanding of our universe, new ways to generate power, better agriculture and telecommunications, and even the world's favorite alcoholic drink.
So many breakthroughs, so many advances. It's impossible to overstate just how important Germany has been to the world of science.
But now, as our thought experiment continues, we're going to take these advances away.
We wouldn't understand how a universe works, and our entire modern technology would disappear.
No more energy for you. Shut it down over here. Shut it down over there.
Look, Archie, it just died.
Without nuclear power, many around the world will lose electricity. And without nitrogen fertilizer, many more will be faced with starvation.
There's a saying that the end of civilization is one lost meal away. If you can't eat, nothing else matters. When the food runs out, there's no more law and order, there's rioting, there's looting.
As Germany's scientific advances go haywire, the world slides further into chaos. And in the midst of all this turmoil, we're about to lose one of the most cherished aspects of global culture: Germany's contribution to music. So many of Germany's gifts to the world, transportation, medicine, even beer, are gone. The whole world, including our ill-fated wedding, is in complete disarray.
Hello?
Hey. Now we face losing Germany's extraordinary contribution to music. Today, a hit song might top the charts for a few weeks. But the best German music has been popular for centuries.
German classical music was unbelievably influential.
Beethoven, Brahms, Bach, Strauss,
Schubert, Wagner, these famous German composers are common household names to this day.
They revolutionized music.
Back then, these composers were as big as nowadays the performers are. These guys were stars.
German classical music remains an integral part of modern life.
Most people don't realize it, but so much of the background of the big events in our life, funerals, weddings, all of these things, there's a German tune playing in the background somewhere.
It's hard to go to a wedding without hearing Canon in D.
If you couldn't play classical music at a wedding, it wouldn't have the same kind of elegance that weddings normally have.
But Germany has given us other kinds of music too. For decades, Germany has had one of the most dynamic pop music scenes in the world.
Bands like the Beatles got together in Hamburg for the first time and were influenced greatly by their experiences there. David Bowie spent a fair bit of time in Berlin and so on and so forth. So there's a wide variety of people who got inspiration in one way or another in Germany.
And homegrown German artists have always been at the forefront of new music. From disco to synth pop, from heavy metal to EDM. Germany not only produced great music, they discovered new ways to share it with the whole world. In 1872, German chemist Eugen Baumann discovered PVC, the key component of vinyl. Soon after, another German-born inventor, Emil Berliner, used the material to create the first flat-disc phonograph record. Like the printing press was to books, the vinyl record was to music. Artists could, for the first time, be easily distributed and heard around the world.
Vinyl records became the driving force of the music industry.
The world musical history would be totally different without vinyl and the way vinyl has influenced the consumption of music.
I remember when I was a teenager, the first album I ever owned, I spent hours putting it on the turntable, putting the needle on. It was great.
Even today, many music lovers still believe the vinyl record is the best way to enjoy recorded music.
There's actually a bit of a renaissance now, and vinyls are becoming more popular again.
Music entered a new era in 1987 with another German breakthrough. An audio engineer named Karl-Heinz Brandenburg invented a new digital technology. He called it the MP3.
MP3 is a data compression format that happens to work particularly well for music. It made it possible for us to store enormous amounts of music in limited amounts of space.
This was a complete game changer.
It's amazing that we can walk around today down the street with our headphones in with thousands and thousands of music files on it. Can you just imagine if this were back in the day? We'd have to carry around a truckload of vinyl records.
It's the #1 distribution method for music now, and it's something that's become so central to our experience. The earbuds in and listening to music whenever and wherever we want.
But now, as our thought experiment crescendos, the world falls out of rhythm as Germany's musical masterpieces play their final note.
Can you even imagine what the world would be like?
Modern culture would be much quieter, much more boring place.
To take that away would literally take the joy out of so much of life.
Our thought experiment has had a huge impact on the whole world. transportation, communications, medicine, science, and music. Germany has helped define all of it for our modern world. But now, at the end of a day without cars, books, Einstein, Beethoven, or even beer, a new dark age has begun. The loss of Germany's inventions, ideas, and creativity has been catastrophic. It's a reminder of the profound effect German innovation has had on the world. Fortunately, our thought experiment is over, and we still have everything that Germany gave us. Across the globe, and even here at this fairy tale wedding, life goes back to normal.
The world is a better place because of all Germany gave us throughout history.
And the spirit of German innovation shows no sign of slowing down in the 21st century. The country is leading in areas of manufacturing, renewable energy, transportation, medical technology, and more.
Germany, in some sense, is the heart of Europe as a political force and as a cultural powerhouse, a scientific powerhouse in terms of innovation and fundamental scientific research. And I expect that's going to continue into the future for some time to come.
The Germans are also a world leader in fighting global warming. They've been working on their carbon emissions, they've been working on alternative fuels, they've been working on ways to produce energy through wind power and all of these other things.
As part of their push to reduce carbon emissions and fight climate change, Germany has begun a thought experiment of its own, imagining what life would be like without one of their greatest inventions, the internal combustion engine. The German government launched the National Platform for Electric Mobility, with goals like ensuring over 1 million electric cars would be on German roads by 2020. Germany has proposed banning all gas and diesel-powered cars by 2030.
The single most important thing a society can do is challenge itself, is have people who stand up and say, here's a better way. Without that, civilization ceases to be.
With that spirit in mind, Germany is taking transportation beyond the Autobahn, all the way to outer space. Today, German physicists are at the forefront of M-drive technology, a type of spacecraft engine that is theoretically able to generate thrust without any propellant. If they can perfect the idea, humankind could, for the first time, voyage to distant galaxies and beyond. For Germany, like our happy newlyweds, the future looks bright.
In the years ahead, the German tradition of intellectual debate, the German technology, and the German spirit of trying to be better than your past will guide us all to a brighter tomorrow.